Cozy up your home with budget friendly fall decor. These simple dollar store DIY ideas are easy to make. And for you coffee and tea lovers, project number 3 is made for you. I'm Melissa, and this is Craft Crumbs. Thank you for joining me. This first DIY is made from a fun find at the Dollar General. When they were running their buy one get one free sale a few weeks ago, I grabbed this bread box. I painted it with this camouflage paint by Rust-Oleum and it's very blotchy. After several attempts to even out the coat of paint, I decided to just settle with what I have and apply some rubble and transfers. These transfers are stunning, but I think they're haunted. Watch this. Didn't it look like someone grabbed that from me? I have no idea what happened there, but I do live in a haunted town, so there's that. But we're just gonna keep on moving and hope that nothing else bizarre happens during this video. I'm gonna cut out some of these transfers. I do kind of want to hoard some of the larger patterns for another project, to which I don't have anything in mind for, but I'll know at the time. I'll know when I'm creating something that will be the right project for it. So I'm going to hoard the larger ones and just work with the sheet of smaller transfers. And when I say small, these are not small. As you can see, it's a nice big transfer that's going to take up the whole center front of this bread box. A little while before I started my channel, I actually upcycled a larger bread box that I picked up at Hobby Lobby on their spring sale and turned it into a toolbox for the craft room. And it is absolutely beautiful. Now that one is in spring colors. I'm going to show you for size comparison what it looks like next to the one I created previously. Here I pulled the film back a little too quick and lost part of the transfer, so I'm just going to put it back down and apply it separately. I bought these transfers from Amazon, and while they're not the quality that I usually buy, they're definitely a contender. I was willing to work with these a little bit more than I usually have to work with transfers because the detail and color saturation is exactly what I want in my transfers. Who can argue that this pack is gorgeous? I pulled a few different handles from my stash as well as a two-part closure clasp, which I end up not using. But because I don't want them to be silver, I took them outside and gave them one coat of Rust-Oleum spray paint in the color bronze. And I think this is going to be a better match for the spray paint we have on the bread box. I'm going to drill some holes in the top, and this is where the standard handle is going to be installed. I'm using a variety pack of nuts and bolts to get this on. I'm going to screw the nut onto the bolt and make it finger tight, and then go in with a screwdriver to finish the tightening. Here is what the inside looks like after adding the cup handles. Now the lid on this has a very, very tight fit, so I'm not going to need the clasp that I had originally planned. I'm just going to take a little bit more of that same Rust-Oleum bronze paint, sprayed it into a little cup, and brush it over the bolts. Okay, so this part I slightly regret when it's all done. I wanted to add some black interest to create contrast, but I add the black to the upper edge of the bread box, and then I add it to the edge of the lid as well. So when it's closed, it looks like one thick band of black almost. And because I was frustrated with the camouflage paint and threw the can out, I don't have any paint to try to touch it up and change it. So we end up just living with it. It's not terrible. So here it is complete. See, it's not terrible. And even if you think it is, just, lie to me and tell me that it's stunning. I'm totally fine with that. Here's the larger spring version that I made from a Hobby Lobby bread box a few years ago. You can see the size difference. This blue one does not have handles on the side, but it does have two clasps on the front that prevent it from opening when it's being carried. So let me know in the comments what you think about these and if this is something you would try. For our second fall DIY, I'm going to elevate this Dollar Tree frame with intricate detail. This thing is so pretty when it's done. This is shady business around here. We're going to use monochromatic painting where we use variations of one color to build depth. This is also known as tone-on-tone painting, but it really gives it a high-end look and adds depth and interest to the finished product. To put it simply, we're going to make it look uppity. We can't let anyone look at this picture frame and know that it came from the Dollar Tree. To do this, you're going to use different shades in the same color family. I started off with a darker green and now I'm going in with a light green, mixed a little bit of white paint in there to lighten it up a bit more. And I'm using this just to highlight those details. I'm not applying any pressure with my paintbrush, just kind of grazing over the surface to bring out the detail. Oh, darn, you caught me. I had forgot to press the record button earlier and already got started on this white. You can see that I'm using a little bit different of a brush here, but it's not necessary to use any kind of special brush. So adding the white is just once again bringing more highlight and definition to the piece. And wow, is this thing ever coming together nicely. On the inside of the frame there, I'm just going to kind of highlight the four corners. And this is really going to make whatever we put on the inside pop. Of course, I'm going to put something high contrast inside, and it's going to give it a nice wow factor. As you can see, the little pain in the boss stopped by. She wanted to check things out, but it seems like she had given up on that concept, gave herself a nice long bath, and I'm not sure that it shows in the video, but she does lay down right after the bath and takes a very nice long nap, limiting my space for crafting. But, at least she's not laying on the project like she typically enjoys doing. Nobody can make me scurry as much and as fast as Maisie does. When she jumps up on the craft table, I will move faster than I've ever moved before to get the hot glue gun out of the way, to move any open paint containers, pick up any sharp objects, and then she just plops her hiney down on my project and begs for lovin'. I stop what I'm doing, I give her lovin', and then I soon realize that I need the lovin' as much as she did. She finally gets sick of me, moves on, and then I can get back to crafting. All of this indecisiveness that you're witnessing is me just trying to choose what I want to put inside this beautiful frame. This pack of paper that I picked up from Amazon, I'm linking it down below for you, but at the time that I'm creating this video, it was out of stock. I'm hoping it comes back in stock for those of you who might love this as much as I do. I first cut out a piece of it, and then I realized that I didn't really like the way it looked in the frame, so then I moved on to a second piece and cut that out instead. But you'll see here in just a moment which section of the paper that I choose for the frame. Here we go. Now I'm going to cut out this part because I really didn't care for the first one, and I like this chapel in here. And now I'm just kind of deciding, do I want to put the glass in the frame, leave the glass off, and I ultimately decide to go with the glass. So cute little scene inside that frame. Here's an up-close look at the detail. I knew that some of you thought that I was going to add gold rub and buff or gold leaf to this, but yeah, not this time. I surprised you, didn't I? See, I can be unpredictable. The third fall DIY is one that I'm super excited to bring you. I roasted about 1.5 cups of fresh coffee grounds that I purchased at the Dollar Tree in the oven for 2 to 3 minutes at 225 degrees. While they were roasting, I filled the entire house with the sweet smell of coffee, which I'll take over the smell of a candle any day. I'm using a small votive from the Dollar Tree and a piece of canvas fabric that I had in my stash. You can use any kind of fabric or even ribbon for this step. I'm rounding those corners because we're going to Mod Podge this to the votive, and rounded corners are more likely to stay down. Before I do the gluing though, I want to add some detail, so I'm going to stamp on a flower just lightly to the canvas fabric. And this is the first time I've ever used one of those glass plates to apply a stamp. I typically use whatever I can find nearby, like the back of the stamp pad or the lid to the stamp pad or whatever. And one of you lovely people watching has recommended this glass stamp applicator thingy, and I was a little resistant to it at first because I really do like to use what I have rather than buying extra things. But I stand corrected. This did make the application much easier and I had less mess. If you've been watching me, you've seen me mess up these stamps time and time again, and my little naive brain didn't realize that there was an easier way. That being cheap is not always the best way to handle things. One of the main reasons I DIY as much as possible is so I don't find myself crying at the checkout. That would be weird. That would be awkward, right? Okay, I'll get back to the project. I am using a moderate amount of Mod Podge to get the canvas fabric onto this little votive. I'm going to do the same on a small lidded jar that I bought from Hobby Lobby recently. Set them aside to dry and come back to finish the project and get into the good stuff. I set these aside to dry for about 30 minutes, and coming back, I'm going to cover the canvas fabric with masking tape. I'm going to make sure that the edges of the masking tape are cut very straight so I get a straight line when I'm adding the coffee grounds. And I'm leaving about a centimeter, possibly 2 centimeters, around the edge of the canvas exposed. I'm going to use Mod Podge very generously here to cover the glass and then start sprinkling on the coffee grounds. As I go, I'm gently pushing the coffee grounds into the glue. I realized I needed a little more glue and coffee grounds on the bottom of the jar, so I took care of that and set this aside to dry for about 15 minutes. Coming back, I'm going to use my little hand broom here to brush off any loose coffee, and now I'm going to apply the second coat exactly the way I did the first. I allowed this to dry overnight, and now I'm just removing the masking tape that covered the canvas fabric. And I'll use my X-Acto knife to clean up any edges that look a little ragged. And we'll give it a nice smooth edge. I'm using the same knife to clean up the top edge and scrape off any glue that was hardened on there. And I'm just going to do the same thing to the second jar. The next time you're at the grocery store or the Dollar Tree, pick up a Frappuccino and used the bottle to create a larger version of this same DIY. I took the lid to the Frappuccino bottle as well as the flexible lid that came with the second smaller jar we did outside to give them a coat of black matte paint. I'm going to come back to the smaller jars and add some final touches. I used my circle template to trace and cut out 1.5 inch circles from that same canvas fabric, and I'll use a couple of those to embellish these glass pieces. I'm adding some hemp cord around the edges of the circle to finish it off. To make it a little more fun, I'm going to use a scrap piece of mesh fabric that I have, and I'm going to just add that right before adding this little paper flower. Look how cute that is. I'll link this mesh fabric down below for you. It comes in a pack of different varieties of what's called material paper, and a lot of it is very useful in crafts, even if you're not a paper craft. If you're a paper crafter, you'll love them, but if you're not a paper crafter, you'll love them for things like this. Walmart sells packs of paper doilies that are better quality than the Dollar Tree, and I like to tea dye them and just hang on to them for random crafts. And that's what I've done here. I've grabbed one out of my stash and I'm going to add it underneath the lid, add a few buttons to the front, and then this one will be done. Here's the Frappuccino bottle. For this one, I did the exact same thing, but instead of using canvas fabric, I used wired ribbon, but pulled the wire out of it. I'm going to speed through this because you've already seen the process, but I do want to tell you that if you do not have coffee grounds, but you have tea bags, you can certainly use the tea out of the tea bags. When you're finished using your tea bags, you simply set them under the sun to dry. It then just cut those tea bags open and store the grounds inside an airtight container. I usually keep the tea bag itself as well because it's now a beautiful tea dyed stain and great to use in a variety of projects. For the Frappuccino lid, because this was slightly larger, I used another one of those canvas fabric circles, but I frayed the edges for a little more interest. Once again, fraying just the sides of another one of these circles. I'll add a few extras to the bottle for a polished finish and call this one done as well. I think it's worth mentioning that if you want to recreate this and follow the steps that I've laid out for you in this video, you're not going to have coffee grounds falling off of your glassware. If you do have coffee grounds falling off and you've done everything to fix it but can't, I mean, I really don't think that's going to happen, but if it's a concern, then just cover the grounds with a coat of dark brown paint. You could probably even seal it with a clear top coat, but I have not personally tried that. To demonstrate what it would look like with the coat of brown paint, I'm going to show you this one after being painted next to the others that weren't painted in just a sec. There we go. Boy, that was a quick sec. You can see I added a variety of buttons, paper flowers, and even crocheted flowers to decorate these, but there are countless different things that you can use to customize yours and make it more your personality. Let me know in the comments what you think about this coffee or tea DIY for fall. What do you think? Do you want to gussy up one of these? Let's pull it apart. Let's maybe pull it apart. Wow, maybe I should join the WWE. For the paper that's left on here, I am not about to scrape all that off. I'm just going to scrape off the parts that are sticking up and then sand down the rest. Easy peasy. A lot less time consuming than scraping it all off. This one had some glitter. It must go away. Here I've painted both of them in a white chalk paint just to give a clean slate. And I'm going to pull one of these smaller pumpkins from my stash. I think this was a pack that came from either the Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby. I'm going to paint these two pumpkins. Now the small one I paint orange, but later change the color. Middle pumpkin I've left white but painted on the stem portion so that I can see it through the napkin after it's applied. So we're going to decoupage this napkin on. Here's where pre-painting the stem is helping me out because I can see it through the napkin and just paint where it's already at, opposed to painting on the napkin without a guide, making a mistake, and messing the napkin up. I used paint markers to create a variation of color in the stem, but don't like that and end up changing it later. For now, I'm using a metallic gold paint pen to bring out some of the detail in the fruit and flowers in the paper. Here's another tea-dyed doily. This is from the Dollar Tree. These kind of fall apart. They don't really look that great in most crafts, but I think it'll work in this one. I kind of folded it in an accordion style so I can shove some flowers down in there in just a minute. The texture of the doily, I hope, will break up any busyness of the completed project. I'm going to add dried bunny tails to this, and I want to contain them a little bit so they're not falling out at any point. So just using some scrap paper, I'm going to encase the stems inside this, glue it together, and then glue it up underneath the doily. I haven't been able to find lightweight spackle at the Dollar Tree, so instead I'm going to use modeling paste to add a raised stencil to this smaller pumpkin. I then paint it the same color green that the base was covered in, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. I felt like this area needed a little something more, so I'm going to take another doily in a darker tea-dyed shade and add it in on top of the first. Let's add some greenery and replace that wimpy bow at the top. As a final step, I'm going to use that very same stencil over top of the modeling paste, tap over it with a light coat of white acrylic paint, and bring that design to the surface. And this project is done. I added 4 tumbling tower blocks to the back of it to make it stand on its own and took the paint from the front of the largest pumpkin around to the back. And this is what it looks like complete. You can make it functional by adding a hook or a mini clothespin to display things if you would like, maybe a recipe card holder in the kitchen. Here's a look back at all 4 of our fall DIYs from the Dollar Tree that we created today. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and got some ideas to create something of your own. If you did, do me a solid, click the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and share the video with a friend. Thank you so much for staying until the end, and until next time, my friend, don't forget to craft what you love.